when do you first remember really connecting about what your dad did for a living?
Oh gosh, very, very early because I was really fortunate. And I attribute this to being an only child. I grew up around adults, so I was exceptionally well behaved, and I was, I could handle myself even at a young age with adults. So I used to spend every summer, literally, on the dubbing stage with him.
What era is this? Is this like early 80s or?
Well, even back when he was doing TV, I mean,
Oh,
even back when he was doing, he used to do all the Quinn Martin TV shows, um,
and was this
Streets of San
on
Francisco,
the lot at
Cannon,
uni?
on the lot at Uni, because Quinn Martin had his, before Aaron Spelling moved in, Quinn Martin did all his stuff on the lot.
Right.
And a sound editor by the name of Don Hall was actually the sound editor that cut all of the Quinn Martin stuff.
Another sound legend who would go on
Uh,
to be the head of the Academy sound department for the
and
Academy's. Yeah,
one of the first editors I ever worked for.
great guy.
So yeah, so I don't think there was really a time that I didn't know, you know, studios and stages, and because literally Charlene Richards, who you've had on the show,
Yes.
in the summertime, her daughter and I would have our bikes on the lot. And this was back when it was Samuel Golden Studios. Now, of course, it's the lot.
Yeah.
But Brandy and I would just play. I mean, it seemed like a normal thing. It was like, what, all kids don't get raised this way? I mean,
No, we had very similar childhoods. I grew up in Hollywood too and visiting lots.
He started on stage C over at then Samuel Golden Studios,
Yeah.
and that was when he was doing all the TV. He did a few features while he was over there. He did a feature with Cliff Robertson, which I'll never forget because Cliff was very kind to me. He also did Animal House on that stage.
Yeah, I talked to John about it when I brought up Bill's name to John Landis. We have lunch every few months. We haven't since COVID started, but every now and then we have lunch. And I very early on I said, Bill Varney's daughter is part of this. Oh, I loved working with Bill. So that was very nice.
Yeah, so Animal House was actually done on stage C. And I used to create a little camp under the ping pong table. And I don't know whether my dad put this in my brain. I have a feeling he did, but I thought when the red light came on that anything in the room could be recorded. So I would get as still as a church mouse. I mean, I wouldn't move. I'd almost not breathe because it was, and back in those days, the consoles were metal.
Yeah.
And the guys would use grease pencils and they'd write all over the consoles.
Right. Actually on the console. Yeah.
Yeah. Itself.
No laying down tape. Yeah.
No, right on the console. And there was always a panel right at the end that was open, and Dad would give me, all the different colored grease pencils, and it was like a dry erase board, I could sit there and color. And then I don't remember what the first movie he did on dubbing stage D.
Yeah, which is the legendary stage. That's the big where Raiders and Empire and all that. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, The Last Waltz.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was interesting for him because he was mixing at night. They had something else in there during the day, but Steve Maslow and him worked on the Last Waltz.
Yeah. Maslow being the music mixer, of course, he would be a big part of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, years and years and years, of course, until he moved to Universal Studios.
Which also had a lot of single camera episodic TV going through, just cranking out that stuff.
Well, it did. When I started at Universal, I was an apprentice sound editor. I was working when we had, I want to say 12, 14 hours of television, something like that. Because it was in the days that we had Miami Vice, Simon and Simon, Murder, She Wrote, Airwolf, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
and what was interesting is back then, I say back then, but it was probably in late 80s,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
late 80s,
Yeah.
that they were still, it's so funny that they were still archaic in the fact that they actually did looping. They didn't do
Mhm.
ADR. So for your
Yes,
members
please.
that may
Yeah,
not know,
please give
is
a rundown of what that entails.
what looping was the dialogue editor or ADR editor would take whatever line it was. Let's say the line was welcome to Amityville,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And they would get the original production dialogue, make a copy of it, and then we would take it and we would splice it so that it would be mag on this side, cell on that side, so that when it would run through the machine, it would play the line, then it would have blank space so that the actor could say the line, and then it would play the line and the actor could say the line. That's what actual looping is. But all
yeah.
those loops had to be what they called hot spliced, which for sound editors, we of course use tape.
Mhm.
Negative cutters used hot splicing. You actually
Sure.
have to scrape the film, put
Yeah.
glue on it,
Yeah, you
put the other
cement
piece
it
of film to
together.
it, and heat. It's done with heat.
Yeah.
So there were times, especially on Airwolf,
Yeah.
that we had hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, but hundreds of lines. The the most would have been with
Jan Michael Vincent.
yeah.
No, I kind of know this story,
Yeah.
and we don't have to tell it
No.
again just now.
No.